Well, hi, I'm Dr. Michael McDonald. Thank you for joining me. This video is part of a series of interpretations of Plato's Allegory of the Cave, and it actually represents material that I presented at the Osher Institute in Palm Desert, California. And I gave a class there where we went through 7 or 8 different interpretations of Plato's Allegory of the Cave. With the first 2 being, to sort of explain who Plato was, and also the role that this allegory, it summarizes his entire philosophy. He particularly wanted to always have the allegory of the cave presented along with a fourfold line. And I've explained the dynamics of that in the first few videos where I cover Plato himself and the way that he intended the allegory to be used. Obviously, there was no television at the time that he existed. But so powerful is his basic allegory of the cave that many people have been able to apply it to the modern world in terms of education, in terms of computer simulations, in terms of religious interpretations. And what I'd like to share with you today is called the media interpretation. And again, very obvious and straightforward and meaningful in terms of today's world. All right, now the media interpretation, again, creates a focus on really what's going on inside the cave. And that is our first 2 stages of the fourfold line. When you're in the cave, the only source of illumination and everything that you must see in the light of is only a little tiny fire, and that fire has been built by someone else, guards, and the fire projects shadows up on the wall. Okay, and then over here we've got these prisoners who are sitting entranced by the images, which are the shadows on the wall, because the guards have created those shadows by holding up like cardboard cutouts of real things like rabbits and coyotes and things like that, basically cartoons. And then they attach stories, which again is like a TV production studio for sure. Because they're always attaching stories. And the only thing that's going on in a TV station that's different from these guards walking back and forth and telling stories to the prisoners is that where the images are a lot more sophisticated. Of course, in the modern world, we can create almost anything in the way of believable images. And then, of course, what we're saying is that watching television is the same thing as watching the shadows on the wall. Which actually you have to stop and think. These are pre-packaged, aren't they? And they have been created by someone else. And in the media interpretation, we're kind of focusing on the figure of the advertiser. Because really the reason that television exists and the way it gets its funding is through advertising. And up here in the corner, I have highlighted the motive of the advertiser, which obviously is to make money. And what I'm trying to convey is a certain sense in which they're not your friend. I mean, their motive is to get you to buy the product, very much straightforward, okay? And so that's what advertising is. And advertising makes use of a series of very powerful techniques that are basically no different from propaganda techniques and basically no different from the techniques of hypnosis, as I explained in some of the other videos. You know what I mean? What we're dealing with is an appeal to your emotions rather than to your mind. And also that you're in a relaxed state or an entranced state, which kind of corresponds with Plato's prisoners being bound. And you're not really forced to watch television, but in our modern society, it's such a reality of daily life that people do tune in. And they, it's documented. You're in a hypnotic state when you're watching TV. You're relaxed, you're suggestible. And so the images of the advertiser have a direct access to your subconscious mind. And they result in a change of behavior, which is what the advertiser was after. In other words, you buy the product as a result of seeing these ads. the corporations that have enough money to pay millions of dollars for only a few minutes of advertising time are not fools. They don't take money out of their pockets, especially millions of dollars, for no reason. The only reason that they pay for advertising is because they get more people to buy the products and make more money by doing the advertising than what the cost of the advertising represents. Okay, so in this version of the allegory of the cave, we're kind of seeing some emphasis fall on the advertising images. The advertiser represents the guard, and the guard is in this case projecting a whole series of shadows up on the wall, and these people that are watching television are taking that in, and it's having its predictable effect. Which means you don't necessarily watch one ad and go buy the product, but we have an onslaught of ads. And by the way, repetition is one of the techniques that works both in terms of hypnosis and in terms of advertising. All of these principles are extremely well known. They don't appeal to your rational mind. They hit you on a subconscious level, which is where, you look up to the rock star who is holding up the product. And again, that's not something that's trying to explain to you why you should buy the product in rational terms, that it costs less or does more or whatever. It's simply saying, here's a real image of somebody that you really admire, and look what they're doing, And I'm not going to go into all of the techniques that are used in advertising, but a lot of them are, basically have a second life as fallacies, and this would include the bandwagon effect. They're constantly suggesting that, gee, everybody's excited about this new product. And they're also telling you little stories to involve you in a drama. Oh, here's the ordinary housewife that's just like you. And gee, she had such a dirty kitchen, but then she used our product, and oh my gosh, look how happy she is. And then she's sitting there smiling at you. And, the smile of a beautiful, attractive woman, as we have seen again and again, has a lot of ability to sell product, whether it's related to the product or not. I don't think I'm telling any big secrets by saying that part of what's going on in your subconscious mind is this business about sexuality. And that's why, attractive men and attractive women are almost always used in the ad. Now, as we move to stage 2, which is the difficult process of getting out of the cave, remember that in Plato's Allegory, we have a free person over here in stage 4. And I've represented that as the kind of free thinker who can think for themselves and doesn't want to be manipulated by interested parties, told what to think. And why would you not want that? Well, one reason you would not want that is revealed here in stage 3, is that the basic technique of advertising is to create a state of anxiety. And again, I'm not telling any secrets here. That's very essential to everybody's analysis of what a consumer society does. The idea being that if you're anxious, then you feel like you need to go do something, and then the advertiser can step in and say the perfect thing to do is to buy my product. So they kind of sell you the problem, and then they're hoping eventually to sell you the solution. And so they're constantly keeping you in a state of anxiety. And you could see that on something like makeup, which is another part of the images that they're holding up. They're holding up ideals that are popular in the society, which we might as well call empty stereotypes, and that would be the ultimately attractive woman or the ultimately attractive man, whatever that might be, sports hero, big tough military guy, woman, we know with all of the qualities they think that an attractive woman should have. And then you compare yourself with this, dolled up ideal that even the model can only obtain with special lighting and on a special day and with an expert doing the photography. So it's a phony image, but you're comparing yourself and you're going, gosh, I'm not like that. I guess I'll have a big problem as far as finding an attractive wife, or I guess I'll have a big problem as far as interacting with men. What'll I do? Oh, I better go buy this product, which is the thing that slipped in at the end, which is a clear command of how you solve your problem. You solve the problem by going and buying their product. It does work. It works on predictable numbers of people. It will work on you. It has been working on you. And it's very difficult to take this journey in stage 3 to escape from this constant anxiety that's being pounded down your throat by the consumer society, and escape from this constant process of comparing yourself with impossible stereotypes, that have been carefully prepared, and then feeling bad about yourself in some way. Now, stage 3 in Plato's allegory is the first step in which you're outside the cave and no longer under the influence of these guards that are holding up the images. And there you're using a different source of light, right? It's not the little tiny fire inside the cave. It's the sun. And the sun shines on good and bad alike. The sun is a star. The sun is able to illuminate everything under the earth and show it as it is, whether it's a tree or a rabbit or a coyote. And so now you're not looking at the shadow of an image of a rabbit. You're actually looking at real rabbits and seeing how they interact. That doesn't mean, by the way, that you forgot what was going on inside the cave. You also know what images are. You also know what shadows of images are. And so there is this motive to share your knowledge with the people that are inside the cave and say, hey, I will return to the cave and talk to them and say, you guys have been manipulated, and please don't allow that. Escape with me. Follow my procedures. Do what I did, and then you'll be glad about it. And you'll be able to own your own mind, and you'll be able to see yourself in a more universal context, not who other people told you who you are, but who you really are, right? Just like seeing the rabbit for what it is. Isn't it wonderful if you could see yourself for who you really are? And so in this process of escape that we have in stage 3, I have highlighted ideas like, using discrimination, not being lazy. A lot of what's going on with television is just plain being lazy. It's not bothering to look into what hypnosis is. It's not bothering to look into the anxiety created in the consumer society. It's not wanting to own your own thoughts. It's not having the insight to see that, I'm not going to have self-confidence or self-love as long as I'm comparing myself to these stupid images that have been created by other people who are bent on their own profit. Why should I be part of that when it comes to, my own self-image and my idea of who I am? So there's a bunch of healthy recommendations as we escape. Learning how your subconscious mind works, learning more how to get in touch with yourself, learning about the consumer society. And then obviously that would also translate into some practical suggestions. Find a way to watch dramas without watching ads. But remember that even in the drama, they're holding up other people's ideas and other people's ideals. Every movie and every TV show is putting forward somebody else's idea of what the ideal father or what this journey is. So you got to be careful. Movies are all over the place as far as whether they're also invading your subconscious mind, because film can be a wonderful thing and it can open your mind, and it can, I'm not saying cut off all images that are produced, but I'm saying be very careful and be discriminating, okay? Now, that would also be having the basics of self-confidence and self-love. And also that involves, self-love involves taking care of yourself. Remember, taking care of yourself physically, spending the time to exercise properly, and do the things that will help to make you, you. It's all based on the idea of, knowing who you are and accepting who you are. Whether you look like Barbie or whether you look like that ideal Hollywood star or not, in the light of the sun, in the universal context, you're a human being that was put on this earth to explore the world and enjoy life, and you're not okay the way you are. You are perfect and wonderful the way you are. So this stage 4 business is recovering your own sense of who you are. And I put the idea of getting out in nature along with the idea of getting exercise, just to emphasize that when you're watching TV, you're being lazy. You're inside a small enclosed room, and you're in touch with an artificial set of images, whereas there's nothing better than getting out and walking in the open air or enjoying whatever it is that you love, and that does make you feel closer to yourself. So I hope that in this media interpretation of Plato's Allegory of the Cave, I've been able to apply the allegory to a series of ideas that I hope will be helpful to you. And remember, I'm Dr. Michael McDonald, and that this video is one of a series of videos. So if it seems like I skipped over things or was talking about the 4 stages and all of this, and you weren't able to follow, go back and look at some of the earlier videos in the series, and then that'll help to explain it. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time and attention, and I hope you do join me again for more explorations of the Allegory of the Cave.